you go in front of a crowd here in Detroit of 45,910. They had 57,000 plus here yesterday as the hometown Lions beat Green Bay. And so now the second half, that was a big touchdown scored by the Giants there at the end of the first half to Kevin Boss to make this an 11-point game.
Well, I think it's big anytime a team can score right before the half. I think you look at both of these teams and kind of what has happened. They both maintained balance. You know, it got a little skewed for the Giants because of that last drive and them throwing the ball to then score. But the difference really has been that the Giants have run the ball well and the Vikings have not.
As you look at the first half stats, inside those stats, the Giant offense 2 for 2 in the red zone. The Giant defense overcame 2 turnovers by the offense, and they held the Vikings to 3 points and 94 total yards. And so Tavares Jackson, I mentioned it during the pregame. Ironic that Brett Favre's consecutive start streak would end in Detroit, where Lou Gehrig's streak ended at Briggs Stadium. It was not called Tiger Stadium then. On May 2nd, 1939, 2,130 consecutive games for Lou Gehrig, and for Brett Favre, 297 consecutive regular season starts. And they both were number 4. Here's DJ Ware. Ware got to the 20. That's it. Brinkley on the stop. Let's go down to Pam Oliver.
Joe, Tom Coughlin credits the defense and the run game for helping the Giants overcome that sluggish start. He was not happy about those 2 Eli picks. He said it's the one thing we could not do. Meantime, with Leslie Frazier, I asked him about his run defense, and he said we got to tackle better and stay in our gaps. He said offensively we got to maintain possession of the football to also help our defense. Back to you.
All right, Pam. Well, that's usually something that Leslie Frazier can rely on, is the run defense holding up. It has not. Ahmad Bradshaw is just now getting back onto the playing field out of the dressing room at the end of the half. Starting at the 20. Quick setup and throw. That's Nix. Good for 6. Here are the offensive leaders for the Giants. And the numbers for Manning, as he is now over 100 yards at 104 with that completion.
Yeah, I was talking about how balanced the Giants were up until that last possession, which skewed it a little bit with all the passes. You know, Leslie Frazier will be the first to tell you, and this is really true about most defenses, is, you know, they have struggled this year, or when they have, it's been because offenses have been able to maintain balance. They've gotten leads, they've been able to run the ball as well as mix in the play action. That wasn't the case a year ago.
Jacobs won't go down. Carried the pile for a yard. It was a 2-yard run in total, and Kevin Williams, one of 2 guys named Williams in the middle, was there to make the stop.
Yeah, Kevin Williams and then big Pat Williams as well. Pat Williams is the oldest defensive player in the NFL, still wants to play a few more years. Kevin Williams, you know, really struggled in the early part of this year, and I think in recent weeks, probably about the time that Leslie Frazier took over, he has gotten back to the form that we're used to seeing him play at.
Same thing for Jared Allen. They sat in Leslie Frazier's office, looked at old tape, and Allen said, I got to get back to that. And the stats back up the fact that he has. Here's Bradshaw for a first down. Pat Williams on the stop, a gain of 4 and a fresh set of downs on a 3rd down conversion.
And we talk about the job that Pat Flaherty has done, the offensive line coach for the New York Giants. I think really the entire offensive staff has done a nice job when you consider at wide receiver the injuries that they've had there. Sean Ryan, who's done a nice job, and then Mike Pope, the tight end coach. Bear Pasco has to fill in, you know, there at fullback for Madison Hedgecock when he goes down. And you know, each of these guys have had to do a good job of coaching, and they've done that.
Manning airs it out, has a man, and overthrows Nix. And Nix comes up limping at the end of it. Nix, who missed 2 games with a lower left leg injury, had a pretty good release off the line, showed good speed, and then at the end, that little stretch, he came away with a limp and checks out of the lineup.
Yeah, he went right by Asher Allen. Asher Allen, we saw him get the interception there, jumping the slant. And And that time he's sitting a little bit too much as well. Akeem Nicks not known as the fastest guy, but as the Giants will tell you, he's as fast as he has to be.
Here's Brandon Jacobs, bounces off one tackler, went off E.J. Henderson, and picks up one. Akeem Nicks looked like he was stretching out his groin, and here's a guy that's back after 2 weeks missed. He was their top target. They got that big game, Troy, coming up on Sunday at home against the Eagles. They need him.
Yeah, and you worry about, whether it has anything to do with the injury that kept him out the last couple of weeks. But when a guy hasn't played, and you can't simulate then what it's like in game conditions to go after a ball. A lot of times when a guy comes back after an extended period out, you'll see him pull something, trying to go for a ball like he was on that last one.
Michael Clayton's in the lineup. This one's nearly picked after it went through the hands of Bradshaw. Ben Lieber had a shot at it, but it's a hold defensively on third down. Steve Smith, who's back after 4 games missed with that torn pec, has been shut out tonight.
Well, it's hard to imagine that, after these guys settle back in and get used to playing again together, that, this is an awfully talented group offensively, especially the way that they're running the ball. And that's why Tom Coughlin talked to Pam Oliver about the turnovers. That's going to be the downfall of this team in postseason.
Camarillo on the return. Good punt by Dodge. Camarillo not known for his speed. Tollison drives him back toward the middle. Camarillo won't go down. What a return by Greg Camarillo, who steps out of bounds, but he gave it all he had. 56-yard punt. 50-yard return. And we'll keep it right here as Camarillo has given the Vikings a little lift, and Aikman's still chuckling about that return.
It's one of the greatest returns I've ever seen. I didn't think he was out right there.
Well, he had an opportunity to take it a little further down the sideline, but he stepped out at the 36.
He's a little gassed, but you can tell by the smile that he's pretty pleased with it himself.
52-yard return officially by Camarillo. Jackson throws it away. Sidney Rice, the intended target.
Well, that was a good job there by Tavares Jackson, because he was going to turn it loose to Sidney Rice. Sidney Rice fell at the top of the route. And had Tavares Jackson have turned it loose, I think Terrell Thomas may have had himself another interception in consecutive weeks.
Yeah, he's been on some kind of roll. Forced fumble and an interception 2 straight games. At home against Jacksonville and Washington. 2nd and 10. Vikings have to do something with this opportunity thanks to Camarillo. Instead, it's an interception by Bullock. And Tavares Jackson threw it right to him. A shake of the head from number 7. And Bullock gets interception number 1.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. By Bud Light, it's the sure sign of a good time. Here we go. By Nissan's year-end sales event. For holiday offers, visit your local Nissan dealer today. And by K Jewelers, the #1 jewelry store in America. Every kiss begins with K.
Well, the Giants defense, who took it away 6 times last weekend against the Redskins, they get their first of this game. They have the most takeaways in the NFL this season now at 31. They also have the most giveaways, so that give and take, the good and bad. And after that 52-yard punt return by Camarillo, 2 plays later, an interception by Jackson. Steve Smith has to reach. Can't haul it in. 2nd and 10, and here's the Bullock interception.
Yeah, you see 53 there, Keith Bullock, and he's got flat responsibility, and he's going to get underneath that route, and that's the guy that Tavares Jackson has got to be able to see. That's pretty elementary coverage right there. Good reaction by Keith Bullock, but you don't expect to get an interception on that particular coverage. Eli Manning has not been sacked tonight.
Been over 5.5 games straight now for the Giants without a sack. Here's Bradshaw. Kevin Williams makes a play and a loss of 2. You know, while you watch Ahmad Bradshaw, realize that Brandon Jacobs, who has a 73-yard run in this game, has said he is more fresh now than he has ever felt at the end of any season. It's showing now the last few weeks. And if you consider Troy a punishing type running back with defenses now banged up, that's a big weapon for them down the stretch.
Well, it's huge. Not only is he fresh, but he's having probably the most fun that he's had in a long time as well. He's just averaging 8 carries a game for the entire season. I mean, that's really pretty remarkable how little work he's had.
Here's Nix back in the lineup. That's good news for the Giants on 3rd down, and he's wrapped up after a gain of 7. It's 3 and out. And Nix jogs back off the field, so another punt coming from Dodge, and the dangerous Greg Camarillo waits deep. Coming off that 52-yard return a moment ago.
Yeah, he's got a little more bounce in his step back there right now, too.
By far his longest. Vikings have not returned a punt for a touchdown this year. Booming punt. And Camarillo makes a mistake of fielding it inside his 5.
There was no way he was going to let that go into the end zone.
Yeah, well, he should have. Goff downfield to make the tackle. Vikings have it down 11. Leslie Frazier trying to settle down the offense after that last interception by Tavares Jackson. Leslie Frazier, defensive back at Alcorn State, played for the Bears, blew out his knee in that '85 championship team. Started a college program at Trinity in Illinois, was there for 9 years, and now finally getting a shot at the NFL level as Adrian Peterson runs into Goff. A gain of just 1. If you talk about this offense, and Troy, we came on talking about the opportunity for Tavares Jackson. This is the first time all game of Vikings have started inside their own 30. And with Jackson leading the offense, they've had 7 possessions, only 5 first downs, none in their last 3 drives, and 94 yards of offense. That's it.
Not good. I mean, we said it coming into this game. This is an auditioning period for Tavares Jackson to see how much he's improved from when he was a starter a few years ago.
Berrien is wrapped up immediately by Deion Grant, and a loss of 2.
And you look at what Tavares Jackson has been able to do here in this game. You know, he's completing a high percentage of passes, hasn't really been able to get the ball down the field. It's not completely surprising. Eli Manning really hasn't been able to do it either, and both of these defenses are very good at not giving up the big play, particularly in the passing game. But there have been some opportunities that Tavares has had that he's just failed to make, or just a poor decision, as we saw in that interception.
Pressure from Umanura off the edge. Jackson steps up and is nearly picked off by Aaron Ross. Trying to force it into Camarillo. And it's 3 and out.
But Joe, we knew coming into this game that they were going to have to be able to run the football. They've got to be able to get things going. As much as the running game is important to the New York Giants and what they're about, you know, that really is what this Vikings offense is about as well. They got away from it a little bit, certainly last year with Brett Favre and then this year, but they want to get back to that. They're not running the ball well at all.
Kluwe hits it. High hanging punt. Blackman from inside the 40. Looks at 4 Minnesota jerseys, and now a 5th comes in to make the stop. Jasper Brinkley. A return of 4 yards. Giants have it. 8:14 left in the 3rd, up by 11.
Today's game is sponsored by Verizon. The signal is yours. Wield it to transmit anything you want. Verizon.
Vikings cheerleaders made it here to Detroit. They were here to witness history as Brett Favre had his streak come to a close here today, and it's been interesting, Troy, to watch him over on the sideline.
Well, you can tell that shoulder, and he talked about the numbness he was feeling in his arm and his hand, is continuing to bother him throughout this game. He keeps clutching it.
On 1st down, Eli Manning throws a rocket and a completion to Akeem Nicks. Good for 15 and a first down. Here are the totals during the streak, which again started September 27, 1992. Since then, 6,651 days, 238 starting quarterbacks, 117 head coaches across the NFL.
You know, he's continued to look pretty uncomfortable as to, what he should be doing with himself over there on the sidelines. And that's to be expected for a guy who's never really had to do it. I mean, he's come out of games in the middle of them because of injury, but could not start the game, obviously.
Here's Brandon Jacobs, and he loses 3, knocked down at the 45.
And I think that's one of the things, Joe, that's going to impact him when he does ultimately retire, because he's never had to experience what it's like to sit for extended games and watch your team go on and play. I mean, he's always been a part of it. And so, when he finally does say, okay, I'm hanging it up, which is likely this year, I don't know how he's going to handle that, because for 20 years, whenever his team has played, he's been out there doing it. And so this will be a really unique experience for him, and I think he's going to have a harder time dealing with it, even though he played longer than anyone.
Here's a direct snap to Bradshaw with Eli Manning wandering around. Kind of a trick play. Doesn't do anything, at least much. A gain of 5, and it brings up 3rd down and long for the Giants. Well, you had to go through that. I mean, you had to sit on the sideline when you were injured, watch your team play, and then, your whole career led to this great opportunity in the broadcast booth, which I know is the highlight of your adult life.
You know what you learn in those situations, Joe, is that the game goes on. And until you experience that, you always tend to think that, hey, they're going to really miss me when I'm gone. And then you realize there's been a lot of great players that have played this game, and the game keeps moving.
It's 3rd down and 8, and down goes Eli Manning, Jared Allen. It only figures. Allen now with 8.5 sacks over his last 6 games. And that's the first sack against the Giants over the last 6 games.
Well, it looked like Deal was expecting help from Brandon Jacobs, and Jacobs kind of gave a half effort there of chipping him. And because Deal then didn't get the chip from Jacobs to put him back on point for Deal, he's able to then make the sack.
So now Brandon Jacobs is explaining himself on the sideline. Running back coach is Gerald Ingram. And here's a punt from Dodge, who's shown off the deep ball, and now a juggle on the catch. It was a fair catch, and Camarillo is allowed to bobble and try and re-catch. There was contact made. One of the Giants players came in there. Deion Grant ends up wrestling for the football, but watch this. Camarillo with a bobble. He has the opportunity, and it's Thomas who's trying to rip it away on the way to the ground. And then Deion Grant falls on the football. A flag was thrown.
Camarillo's trying to make the catch, and he's got his his arms then around the leg. And as he's trying to then regain possession of the ball, and based on the reaction there, it looks like they're going to maintain possession.
We'll bring Mike Pereira in, former head of officiating for the NFL. That's a rule change this year, Mike, is it not, allowing the guy calling for the fair catch a full opportunity to catch the ball?
Right. Even after he bobbled the ball, this is the new rule. It's a penalty, but the only penalty is actually the awarded fair catch, no penalty yardage. So even though he bobbled, he still gets the uncontested right to make the catch if he has an opportunity, which he did. So if they get this right, they'll award the fair catch, no yardage, no 15-yard penalty. And
you could see, thank you, Mike, you could see Jeff Triplett make the indication the call is against the Giants. Vikings will have the ball. They trail by 11, and Tom Coughlin is trying to plead his case to this, in this case, the umpire. But the officials are trying to sort it out. According to Mike Pereira, no penalty yardage, but you are awarded basically the fair catch. And the Vikings will maintain possession. Here's the call.
There are 2 fouls on the play. Both occurred during the kick. Personal foul, unnecessary roughness. Kicking team. That penalty is going to be declined. Interference with the opportunity to make a catch. The kicking team The receiver muffed the ball, give it a fair catch, muffed the ball, did not get an opportunity to make a catch. The ball will be placed at the spot of the foul via the new rule, first down, Minnesota.
Mike Pereira may be under 100% for the year, but I'm telling you, this guy, boy, his percentage is way up there. Right again, Pereira. Vikings have it, down 11. We have searched long and hard, and we found offensive leaders for the Vikings. Rice has 4 catches. Those came early, 38 yards. Adrian Peterson has been totally shut down. And there's the night for Tavares Jackson.
And Adrian Peterson came into this game, really playing well here. He's been playing well all season long, but over the last few weeks he's been averaging over 5 yards per carry, and so he's going to get everybody's best effort, and the Giants knew that coming in, and they have done a remarkable job holding up to the task.
Jeff Triplett just gave a further explanation while we were going over the offensive leaders, and he said there were personal fouls on each side, and so they are going to make the Giants re-kick. So after all that, and Camarillo not getting the opportunity to make the clean, fair catch, here comes another punt by Matt Dodge.
I don't know that anybody's having more fun than Camarillo tonight.
No. Dodge has had a nice night.
But is he having fun?
Well, it's something that we'll have to ask Matt on our way to the bus. This one is driven to the corner. That'll make old Tom Coughlin happy. That's Feagles-esque.
You gotta keep it.
Marked out at the 8. They really missed Jeff Feagles and his ability to do just that. Down the ball, not just inside the 20, but he was a punting genius at getting the ball down inside the 10. And here is Matt Dodge with one of his better efforts, knocking it out at the 8.
You lose sight sometimes as to how good those guys are. Guys like Jeff Feagles, who had been doing it, longer than anybody, and as you said, was so good at pinning teams down in here, and talk about helping out your defense.
So Jackson starts it by handing off to Adrian Peterson. And the ground game has been shut down to this point, out just shy of the 10. On Friday, January 7th, it's one of the most anticipated bowl games of the season, as the LSU Tigers take on the Texas A&M Aggies in a rivalry that is over 110 years old. Our exclusive coverage of the 75th AT&T Cotton Bowl Classic live from Cowboy Stadium begins at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on January 7th in high definition here on Fox. And now one of the players is down for the Giants, Chris Canty, 6-year player out of Virginia, in his second year after being picked up as an unrestricted free agent from the Dallas Cowboys, playing for the Giants, and there he is at the end of the play, number 99.
He had done a nice job on the play. He got the penetration into the backfield, and hard to tell exactly what it is that he injured. You see Jonathan Goff again involved in a tackle.
It might have happened there. At the end, he kind of got crunched.
This interior defensive front, we're talking about how well they have played the run in stopping Adrian Peterson. Those inside guys, Chris Canty does a nice job on that play there, but Barry Cofield and Rocky Bernard, they've been good also in not giving up any ground inside and just not giving any lanes for Adrian Peterson to hit inside. He's had to try to bounce everything, and with the speed of these outside pursuers for the Giants, that's hard to do.
Those guys were kind of considered disappointments last year when they were picked up. Bernard and Canty, they've stepped it up. Canty, more of an interior defensive lineman, had played defensive end with the Cowboys. Here's Adrian Peterson. He cut it back, picks up 6. 3rd down and short coming up for Minnesota.
They just fly around to the ball. Even when it looked like Peterson had somewhere to go with the football and trail roll, he jumps in there, and he continues to impress me. You look at the Giants defensively and the number of fumbles that they force. They lead the league in forcing fumbles, and that's a great sign of a team that just plays with a lot of energy and a lot of aggressiveness.
Barry Fuel, who last year was the interim head coach in Buffalo for 7 games, took the Bills to a 3-4 record his first year. with the Giants, reunited with Tom Coughlin. They were together in Jacksonville. Here's Jackson in trouble, and he floats it incomplete as he gets blasted from behind. Antrell Roll was coming off the edge, and Goff, the middle linebacker, was there as well.
Antrell Roll, he comes off the edge. Brian McKinney has to try to get as much of him as he can. He forces Tavares then up in the pocket, but he stays alive. And then he's the one who's disruptive to Tavares Jackson on the throw. And I mentioned Antrell Roll in the last play, him getting involved in the tackles. And he's one of those guys in the league that has really impressed me, that just does everything. I mean, he's a good cover guy. He's made the transition to safety, but he's a good tackler as well.
This has been just a sloppy game by Minnesota, as a false start shuts down the play on 4th down. If it's against the Giants, it would be enough for a first down, but the indication is that it's against Minnesota.
The offense, number 50.
Aaron
5-yard
Henderson.
penalty, 4th down.
Aaron Henderson guilty of the false start. And Tavares Jackson, who banged his right knee into the right knee of Adrian Peterson early in this game, comes limping off.
I think he's thinking to himself, how in the world did Brett Favre start that many games?
Well, it does bring up the point. I mean, just something like that, something in the category of a freak accident, anything, just reminds you how incredible that streak is by Brett Favre. Tonight, Eli Manning playing in his 100th consecutive start. He and his Giants lead by 11 with 3:46 left in the third. So with Brett Favre on the sideline, the Giants take over at their own 41. They're up by 11, 3:46 left in the third quarter. And there hasn't really been anything happening in this second half yet. Eli Manning trying to change that, looking for Smith, and he's led out of bounds. Why not more on Brett Favre with the way this game is unfolding, and most consecutive starts in the other major sports. Ripken breaking Lou Gehrig's streak ended up with 2,632. AC Green, Doug Jarvis from the NHL. And for quarterbacks, there is Brett Favre at 297. Peyton Manning made 205 against Tennessee most recently, and there's at the bottom of that list, but one of only 6 guys at quarterback to start 100 consecutive games is number 10 for the Giants, Eli Manning. Here's Bear Pasco. Pasco is wrestled forward with a Giants first down by Asher Allen.
Well, I'm biased, having played the position, and I think it's the greatest record in sports. I mean, I just don't think that record ever gets broken for the reasons that you said, Joe. You know, just fluke deals. First of all, you've got to play 20 years in order to get there, and then you've got to be healthy. Obviously, just the fact of someone playing 20 years is pretty rare. And Eli Manning, whether it's Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, you know, they have kind of now made it the standard to where you play through a lot of things that guys just one time didn't play through.
Here's Bradshaw breaking loose. Ahmad Bradshaw takes it home. Touchdown Giants. Longest run of the season for Ahmad Bradshaw, and it's his 8th rushing touchdown of 2010.
Yeah, it's just off tackle. You're going to see it right here in the job that Booth does there at left guard, and Bear Pasco leading the way. The Vikings were crowding the line of scrimmage, had everybody up tight. There's no safety there to help with an angle there to get Ahmad Bradshaw, and then once you get past that initial surge of a defense, well, then it's off to the races. There's no one left there.
And now flags and whistles, which has become par for the course in this one. Before the extra point, Bradshaw 48 yards. And for the Giants, 164 rushing yards.
The offense, 5-yard penalty, retry.
81 total for Ahmad Bradshaw, 83 for Brandon Jacobs. And this is a big running night for the Giants against one of the best, really the best over the last 4 years, the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, they're averaging over 10 yards a carry to just 4 yards a pass. I think I'd run the ball more.
Yeah. This to make it 21-3 from Tynes, who has not missed all year. And it is 21-3. And so the two guys who share the running back responsibilities for the Giants dancing together. Jacobs has regained his starting role, and Bradshaw that complement off the bench. So I think anytime announcers, Troy, go into a game and they talk about Brett Favre and it goes on and on and on, people go, okay, enough. But this night is different. And when you think about some of the comments that have been made about Brett Favre, and they will go on. First of all, do you think this is it? Have we seen the end of, Brett Favre, not just next year, but here in 2010?
Yeah, no, I think he's done this year. I think that if Brett had his choice, that they would put him on injured reserve and let Tavares Jackson play it out. And, you know, and I don't know that, but I think that he would probably not want to have to deal with the week-to-week speculation as to whether or not he's going to play.
The Hall of Famer Sid Gilman said one time, great offenses make a defense defend every blade of grass on the field. When Brett Favre was at his best, rolling around and improvising, sometimes it drove his head coaches nuts. Holmgren's on that list, including the guy just fired, Brad Childress, but he would make things happen outside the pocket, and there was no safe place on the field defensively.
Well, he played the game differently than anyone else. I mean, really, when you think about, we talked about it a little bit earlier, the exuberance that he showed when he played after, you know, a scoring play or something of that nature. And you know, he played it like he was that 12-year-old boy out at the playground doing something that he loved. I think that's the thing that so many people, you know, really fell in love with. It's why they enjoyed watching him, and then the fact that you could count on him each and every week.
Here is Lorenzo Booker with another kick return in an 18-point game. Booker with a good return. Is it a great return? Welcome to the Vikings. Penalty flag comes in late. Booker is into the end zone, but a flag is down. Here's the call from Triplett.
During the return, illegal block in the back. Number 54, the return team. 10-yard penalty, first down.
That's Jasper Brinkley taking points off the board for Leslie Frazier's Vikings.
You can see it right here, the block on Aaron Ross in the back, and Aaron Ross was turning because Lorenzo Booker was running by him, and you know, that was a lot of Lorenzo Booker right there. There was an opportunity to make some tackles early on that return, and then guys just couldn't get off blocks.
It erases a 96-yard kick return for Booker. Here's Brinkley, guilty of the block in the back. Here is Adrian Peterson out to the 45. Let's go for a game break. Here's Kurt Menefee.
Baltimore and Houston. And the Ravens are out to a quick lead. Derek Mason bobbles it, but pulls it in, and it's a touchdown reception of 9 yards from Joe Flacco. And the Ravens are on top of the Texans, 14-0 in the second quarter. Joe, Troy, and Pan.
All right, there are the numbers for Flacco. So the Ravens, who started the day at 8-4, trailing the Steelers at 10-3 on top of the North. Tavares Jackson. What a night for this Giants defense. Jackson loses his helmet. Tollefson gets the sack. And Jackson gets up, wincing in pain again.
Yeah, you're going to see Jonathan Goff, though. He's the guy who creates a disruption in the backfield. Nobody's able to come off and pick him up, and he forces Tavares Jackson inside. And then you got a whole lot of bodies going after him.
So Goff forced it. Tollefson is there. And under pressure and in some pain as Tavares Jackson has been knocked down 6 times. Play clock was down to 2, trying to set up a screen, it looked like. Instead, Jackson throws across his body to the middle of the field. First down to Rice. Best play of the night, certainly in a long time for Tavares Jackson, as he rolled left, threw back to his right for 22 yards.
And with John Sullivan, the center, he's tied up. He's going to be way downfield. It was supposed to be a screen. Watch him right here, number 65. He gets down the field. He's waiting on the screen. In fact, he then goes after Terrell Thomas, and after Tavares Jackson throws this down the field, John Sullivan tries to run back to his side of the line of scrimmage.
Conduct. Giant bench. 15 yards. The automatic first down. They're out on the field.
The Giants saw Sullivan down the field. They were trying to get the officials' attention so they would get the call. Sullivan, after after Tavares Jackson made the throw, he saw that he was 10 yards downfield, and he tried to book it back on the other side. Everybody in the stadium saw John Sullivan.
Coughlin's way on the field. And that's what drew the flag. So it adds 15 yards, and now Toby Gerhart, wide open, is overthrown by Tavares Jackson. 39 seconds left in the quarter, and back to that penalty. Tom Coughlin was on the field, and you see the official to Coughlin's right, our left, throw the flag because Coughlin saw Sullivan downfield.
And Sullivan, you know, he's just an innocent bystander at this point, but at the time that it was thrown, John Sullivan trying to get back was one of the funniest things I've seen.
It's hard to hide when you're 6'4", 301.
And we're 65.
Here is Berrien, who is just drilled. Ball comes out, they rule him down. Good play by Corey Webster. He just slammed Berrien down to the ground.
Tell you, this defense is, you know, a defense, as I said, that came into the season playing very well. Now, obviously, this is an offense overall this year that has struggled a little bit, that being Minnesota. But because of the pass rush that they've been able to get and the takeaways that they've started to get, and then the way that they're running the ball, I mean, this team is starting to look a lot like that group that made the run to the Super Bowl.
That's Booker.
False start, number 27 in the offense. 5-yard penalty, still third down.
I mean, this has the feel of a preseason game. The Vikings have had the football. I'm going to be interested to see, as you watch Booker take off way early, I'm interested to see this defense. And now they've added Jason Pierre-Paul to the pass rush. That's different from the last time the Giants played the Eagles. You've got Michael Vick stuffing those lanes coming up the middle at number 7 of the Philadelphia Eagles. That's going to be a great matchup next Sunday.
Oh man, it's going to be a great NFC East heavyweight fight, you know, for basically the division.
Tavares Jackson is dragged to the ground. Umanura was on top of him, but he was not alone. And the player who got there first is slow to get up. That's Tuck. Tuck was on the legs of Tavares Jackson. And then Umanura up top. And Tavares Jackson again limping off the field. We may, before the end of this one, see Joe Webb, the rookie out of UAB.
Well, he's shaking his head. I mean, the way he's walking, I think we're going to see him on the next offensive play that the Vikings have, and he's going to get warmed up. But you know, defensively right there, that what a surge there by that defensive front. Justin Tuck obviously in a great deal of pain.
It looked like the feet. Watch the feet of Tavares Jackson. He gets a knee in the back, and then he lands on the left heel of Tavares Jackson, talking about Justin Tuck. And he gets up and makes his way off the field. That's the 4th Giant sack in this game. And Tuck looks to be okay.
Well, Justin Tuck, he's an absolute beast. And we saw him standing up there on the rush, and you know, he basically cleared out 2 guys, which then allowed Osi Umenyiora to then make the play. And you know, just a unbelievable talent, that guy right there. But now Joe Webb, it looks like he's going to get his opportunity to play. He came in, was going to be a wide receiver, and threw the ball so well in rookie minicamp they decided to move him back to quarterback. A chance to see what he can do.
Kluwe with good coverage downfield, and this ball is downed outside the 2 by Everson Griffin. And with 7 seconds left in the third quarter, we'll look ahead to Sunday. And why not? We're excited about the Eagles at the Giants. And it's an early game on Sunday, the new Meadowlands Stadium. And there's a look at the NFC East to win here tonight. The Giants are 9-4, tied with Philadelphia. Philadelphia has already beaten the Giants this year, but it's an opportunity next week for those two to go head to head.
How about the NFC playoff picture altogether? I mean, when you look at what's happening in the NFC West, a team could win that division with a losing record. I guess right now, if the playoffs were beginning, the Rams would be hosting New Orleans, and New Orleans has the second best record in the NFC.
On first down out of the end zone, Bear Pasco, the fullback, leaps a tackler and has a first down. So why not replay that to break as we go to the fourth quarter? 21-3 Giants. Back after this from your local Fox station. Giants trying to beat a 5-7 club in a game they need in a neutral site. We're in Detroit after one of the top 5 storms to hit the Twin Cities rolled through there late Friday, all day Saturday. 17+ inches of snow. Roof of the dome collapsing, and here we are in Detroit after the Lions yesterday, by the way, snapped a 5-game losing streak. They lost 10 straight to Green Bay, 19 straight within the NFC North. They beat the Packers 7-3, which is a moral victory for the home team, Detroit, but is a big loss for the Green Bay Packers as they continue to trail the Bears in the NFC North.
That was a huge loss for the Packers, and you know, Aaron Rodgers going down, and then Matt Flynn and not being able to punch it across the goal line, and you know, pretty disheartening whether it's the Packers or even the New York Jets. You're talking about giving up 1 touchdown and then you come away with a loss. That's hard for any defensive player to swallow.
Word on the injury to Justin Tuck was a rib injury, and they expect him to return. Here's a completion to Steve Smith, and he is just ripped down to the ground. Chad Greenway, who's a free agent to be, out there on the tackle. The Giants are just happy to see Steve Smith pop up. It's a club to the head and then dragged down backward. Line judge is injured, so we're playing with 1 fewer official than we started with on first down. It's Brandon Jacobs, lowers his head, picks up 2. Mike Pereira, we're playing with 1 man down as the line judge was knocked out of this game, so I guess a rotation has to happen for your group, or your old group, as we work this game in Detroit.
Yeah, really what happens now is that you only have 2 deep officials instead of 3. Gives some real advantages, I think, to the defense, because they could take the tight end and probably grab him, ride him a little bit further downfield, because he's likely going to be the guy that's not watched as much. So bit of an advantage, I think, for the defense when you go to 6 men.
Toss to Bradshaw, and he is brought to the ground by Henderson. A loss of 3.
We talk about this defense for Minnesota and the front 4 oftentimes, and the linebacking core for the Vikings, I think, is one of the more underrated groups around the league. E.J. Henderson, coming off of his big injury last year, was, you know, he's had a good year, but this guy right here, Chad Greenway, he's been outstanding. I mean, you cannot watch the Vikings play defense and not come away impressed with the way that he plays. We saw the play that he made on Steve Smith a moment ago, but he just flies around all week.
Manning right through the hands of Kevin Boss, and it's 4th down. And on the other side, Ben Liebers at the end of a 5-year deal Spent his first 4 years in San Diego. He's a good player, very reliable. And it'll be 4th down for the Giants with Camarillo waiting with 13 minutes left in the 4th quarter.
Well, whether it's in Minnesota or somewhere else, I can promise you Chad Greenway's going to have a nice payday this offseason.
Dodge hits another good one. Camarillo from the 19. Gets one block out to his left and takes it up just shy of the 30. An 11-yard return. Vikings have it. Will it be Jackson or Webb? It'll be the rookie, Joe Webb, when we come back. So now Joe Webb, who went to the combine as a wide receiver. Troy told you that they turned him back into a quarterback. First player in NCAA history to throw for over 2,000 yards and rush for over 1,000 yards in consecutive seasons. He played at Alabama Birmingham. He's got a big arm. Returned a kick last week and strained a hamstring. Here's one batted down. 2nd and 10. We showed you Jeff Bergman leaving. He's the line judge. And just to finish off the story, you'll see him come to the 12, cut in, and then he looks behind him like somebody hit him with something. It looked like his calf just popped on him.
Yeah, I've pulled both of my calves when I was playing, and that's exactly what you think when it happens. You think somebody's hit you in the back of the leg with a bat or something, and that's why he was looking behind him.
2nd down and 10. Delayed handoff to Gerhardt. Rookie to rookie, and a penalty flag comes in on a 4-yard carry by Toby Gerhardt.
Holding, 38 offense, 10-yard penalty, 2nd down.
That's Tahi. It's against the Vikings, and we go for a game break. Here's Kurt Menefee.
And once again, the Ravens are doing it to the Texans. Joe Flacco hooking up with Derek Mason again. This time, 26-yard score, his 2nd of the day. It's 21-0 Baltimore in control just before halftime. Don't forget Sunday, Saints at the Ravens here on Fox.
Yeah, that's another big game this week, Kurt. Glad you reminded us. The Saints at the Ravens, who are on their way to 9-4, a game behind the Steelers, who won at home big in a driving rainstorm over Cincinnati on Sunday. Here's Gerhardt on 2nd down. He picked up 5. It'll be 3rd down and 15.
And Gerhardt, he's gotten more carries here over the last couple of weeks, and then what do you have, a hamstring injury last week, and that, in fact, Joe Webb's got a hamstring injury as well. They put in a package. They've had a package in for him each week during the season, and finally last week they were going to unveil it on the first play of the game. He pulled up with a hamstring injury, and so he's not going to be able to run too well probably here tonight.
Here's a screen for Gerhardt, and there's Tuck making the play. Ribs are fine as Justin Tuck hauls down Gerhardt after a gain of only 1, and this Giants defense is still working. 21-3 game with under 11.5 to go.
I think that's the biggest difference that I've seen from this year going back to last year's defensive unit is just this, the effort and the way that they're flying around. I mean, last year it just didn't seem like even close to the same defense that they had been, prior to that, and now they're back to looking the way that they did a couple of years ago when they were just dominating the league.
Fair catch by Blackman. Will hauls it in after a 47-yard punt. Giants have it. They'll try to eat some of the clock here with under 11 to go in Detroit. How about the NFC playoff picture there? The division leaders at the top. This is why we said earlier there could be a 10-win team that doesn't make the playoffs. Somebody's going to come out of the West. Right now it's St. Louis on top. You've got New Orleans. They're rolling. The Giants 8-4, about to be 9-4 it appears. Then you've got Tampa Bay with 8 wins. Green Bay with 8 wins. Who knows where Aaron Rodgers is? He had to leave yesterday's game right here in Detroit with a concussion. Matt Flynn could not lead the Packers to victory, losing 7-3. It's a big loss. Bradshaw dragged down by Henderson, a gain of 2.
Well, the good news for the Giants, Joe, is they beat Chicago. Philadelphia did not. And so now, if you're looking at that, if Atlanta wins that division, and regardless then of what happens with New Orleans, they at best will be the 5th seed. Then the Giants, you know, they control it. They would be the number 2 seed and have the first-round bye. So that win against Chicago earlier in the year could prove to be big, and it could prove to be costly for the Eagles.
That was a game they had 10 sacks and knocked Cutler out of the ball game. Here's Bradshaw, and that's how smart Ahmad Bradshaw is, wanting to run the clock. He went right around Asher Allen, stayed in bounds, a 23-yard run.
Now this guy is just pretty amazing, and you know, he's 20-some years old and playing with 50-year-old feet, you know, because of the injuries that he's had and surgeries and everything else. And you know, he talked about it a few weeks ago, and he said it takes him all week long to recover from a game to get his body back to where he feels good enough to get back out on the field and play. And so on the one hand, we talk about Brandon Jacobs and how great he feels, and even though Ahmad Bradshaw hasn't started the last few weeks, he's still, last week 25 carries, you know, this week not as many, but he takes a pounding.
Kevin Williams on the back of Brandon Jacobs, who has a 73-yard run in this game. Bradshaw has one for 48, that last one for 23. 3-yard carry there by Jacobs. We're under 10 to play here in Detroit.
And the guy who really hasn't been able to get on the field is DJ Ware. We saw him in the return game, and last week he finally got a couple of carries, but at the end of that Seattle game 5-6 weeks ago, he had 13 carries in that game and really did a nice job and kind of earned the right to get more carries. But you know, when do you give them to him when you got those 2 guys ahead of you? But he's been a good player when he's had his chances. Somebody that they can rely on, and he may get some carries before this one's over.
Yeah, I was going to say the answer to that question to me is soon. Here is Eli Manning ending up on his back, trying to get one to Kevin Boss. Incomplete, and it's 3rd down.
Yeah, E.J. Henderson, he comes on the blitz, and he's able to get a hit on Eli, you know, right at the end, and forced Eli to get rid of the football a little sooner than what he had hoped.
So the 100th consecutive start for Eli Manning. And there are the numbers. He's been hit 7 times, knocked down 3 times, and sacked once. First sack that this offensive line has given up in 6 games. 3rd down and 7, and Eli Manning completes it for a gain of 1 to Bradshaw. Here's a game break. Here's Kurt Menefee.
Talk about your hurry-up offense. Houston, 7 plays in 55 seconds and a touchdown. Matt Shaw to Andre Johnson, 46 yards on the score, and at halftime, it's a 21-7 Baltimore Ravens lead. Joe, Troy, and Pam.
You know, I keep forgetting there's another game being played tonight.
Do you really now?
Until we have those game breaks.
Yep, they're playing one other game.
Yeah.
Dodge pops it up. Camarillo with a fair catch at the 13. Take a break. Come back. I promise. Eli on the sideline watching his defense, and that D's been good all night.
Today's game is sponsored by Visa. More people go with Visa.
They're looking at Ahmad Bradshaw on the sideline, and now they're wrapping up that left wrist. He'd been bothered during the week by a right wrist injury. He said both wrists have been bothering him this year, and he had the left one pinned underneath him on that short 1-yard completion from Eli Manning. So that's not what the Giants need going into that big game against the Eagles. Here's Gerhardt, a gain of 3, and we go back to Bradshaw on that 3rd down catch, just 1 yard, where they're dominating this game, and Giants have to hope that's no long-term issue for Ahmad Bradshaw.
Well, you can see that it was bothering him. He had it wrapped up pretty good already coming into the game.
Marion just dropped it. Wide open and dropped it. As Tavares Jackson is back in the game for Minnesota.
Going to follow up on Ahmad Bradshaw at 5'9" and 190 pounds. It's hard to imagine any part of his body not bothering him at this stage of the season.
You talked about the 25 carries last week. Tom Coughlin said that was probably too much for him. By far his career high in carries, and he's over 1,000 yards. And that's before they put the wrap on that left wrist. It's 3rd down and 7. There are 4 flags on the field.
False start, 62 of the offense, 5-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
They get Ryan Cook again. Watch these flags fly. There are 1, 2, 3, 4.
The meteor shower was a little later tonight.
It's 3rd down and 12. Are you okay over there? I'm starting to worry about you.
Say 62.
And here's another snap. Goes over the head of Jackson, and let's see the call. Did he get it out? They're saying 4th down outside the end zone, no safety. Antrell Roll was there to cover up, and this has been just an awful offensive performance by the Vikings.
Well, this one wasn't even close. I mean, the first one was on Tavares Jackson, and then this one was just lollipopped right over his head. That's the kind of night, I guess you could say that's the kind of season it's been for the Minnesota Vikings.
I'm not so sure he's out of the end zone.
No, I'm not either.
Mike Pereira tells us that's a reviewable play. But they get the snap away before Coughlin can challenge it. Blackman from inside the 45. Nice move, but doesn't go any farther. 56-yard punt. Here's the snap. It's up and sideways. No safety. Giants have it up by 18. Six and a half to go. Giants get it. They've lost Ahmad Bradshaw with that wrist injury. He's on the bench. Brandon Jacobs comes back in. There was no challenge on what could have and probably should have been a safety. We just spoke with Mike Pereira. We'll get his official explanation after this carry by Jacobs. So they're keeping their starter in there. Brandon Jacobs up by 18. Here's Mike Pereira. And Mike, it looked to us like that could have been reviewable or should have been reviewed and would have been a safety. What'd you see?
Yeah, I think it would have been a safety because once the ball goes into the end zone, now he's got to advance. The whole ball has got to get out into the field to play. He gets control here and is touched here. So now, without that whole ball being into the field to play, that would have been the safety. Key is he would have had to have gotten the whole ball out into the field to play, and it didn't happen.
So no challenge by Tom Coughlin. Instead, he runs his offense back out there. This is the culmination of a long weekend for the Giants. First down for Jacobs. Lieber on the stop, gain of 7. Offensive line has done another terrific job. I thought it was interesting, Troy, you asked a very pertinent question to Tom Coughlin when you said about the return of Sean O'Hara, the Pro Bowl center. Does he automatically get his job back? And Tom Coughlin said Seibert's the guy that's held this whole thing together.
Yeah, you know, this is the 6th consecutive game that Sean O'Hara has missed, but he missed some in the middle of the year too. He's only played in 4 games all year, and it sounded to me like, you know, there's this thought that you immediately put O'Hara back in because he's got so much experience, he's been doing it for so long. But it sounded like Seibert's going to maintain the job.
Here's another big carry by Brandon Jacobs, a gain of 9. Booth made a nice block there. We talked about this in the Seattle game. Somebody has to play. You're up by 18 points. The Vikings are doing nothing offensively. Why is DJ Ware not carrying the ball here? You've already lost Ahmad Bradshaw. Now you've got your big back, Brandon Jacobs, carrying the ball, just trying to kill the clock.
Yeah, I am surprised. This is very similar to the situation in Seattle. Only there's there's less time on the clock right now, but I know they trust DJ Ware, and he's done a nice job when given his chances. I'm surprised Jacobs is carrying the ball also.
He carries forward for another first down. And he's going to keep getting a steady diet of the football here as E.J. Henderson made that last stop. And DJ Ware, who's carried it only 17 times this season, has to be wondering, when do I get my chance?
Yeah, he's got his helmet on. He's ready to go. You know, but over 200 yards rushing here tonight. You know, and granted, you know, 2 or 3 really big runs, but that's part of it against a run defense that has been really stubborn, giving up rushing yards, not just this year, but for a lot of years. This is a great performance by this offensive front.
Here's Nix. They're still throwing it to Nix, who left earlier, limped off the field. 12 yards and a first down.
You know, I think overall, David Deal coming back after 4-week absence, he's done a pretty good job on Jared Allen, too. We talked about the hot streak that Jared Allen was on, and, you know, at times he got bull rushed a little bit, but that's pretty tough duty jumping in after that kind of layoff and then going up against Jared Allen without much help. I know they're glad to have him back.
DJ Ware comes into the lineup. Jacobs is out. 3 minutes plus to play. Clock continues to run. Here's Ware, who's trying to make the most out of it. Won't go down easily, and eventually it's Greenway making the stop. Troy, we talked about it earlier. Loss of 6 on that run by Ware. Monday night, the Vikings have that 50th anniversary celebration at home against Chicago. They're trying to scramble to get the dome ready. The University of Minnesota's outdoor stadium has already been winterized. They've said it's going to take 4 days to get that stadium ready if they would choose to go there. That's an outdoor stadium. Otherwise, they're going to have to take another home game on the road, and I would imagine cancel the 50th anniversary celebration. Fran Tarkington is supposed to be a participant in that as DJ Ware goes forward for 4.
Yeah, Fran Tarkington got a call from his old ball coach, Bud Grant. And Coach Grant had heard that Tarkington was not going to be able to make it in, and he called him and told him how much it would mean for him to be there. And Fran Tarkington, as he said, you don't turn down Bud Grant. But you're right. I mean, and it sounds like Leslie Frazier would like to play that game outdoors there in Minnesota.
2 minutes left here in Detroit. Giants up 18. We're going to go ahead and project the Giants as winners of this game, and now they're 9-4, even though there are 2 minutes left. And they take on the team they're tied with on top of the NFC East next week at home against Philadelphia. Here's a little screen to DJ Ware, showing what he can do, and he stepped out before he could pick up the first down. So it is a gain of 12 and 4th down. Here's that matchup. Have we talked enough about this matchup on Sunday? A short week of preparation for the Giants as their coaching staff has already worked on that game plan. They did that starting today. And it's one of 4 early games on Fox, along with the Saints at the Ravens.
Well, that game's going to be a lot of fun. As far as the shortened work week for the coaches, there's not going to be any surprises in that game. These two teams know each other as well as anyone, and you know, for the players, it's a little bit of a challenge. You get one less day to recover, but I am really excited about that one. You know, it's 2 great teams that are battling it out, just as you'd come to expect for the NFC East Division title.
Before a 4th and 1, Giants call a timeout as the play clock was running out. Let's go for a game break. Here's Kurt Menefee.
Well, we just wanted to make sure you remembered there was another game going on tonight. Baltimore at Houston, and it's, well, really not that competitive. David Reed takes the second half kickoff for the Ravens and returns it 103 yards for the touchdown. Baltimore in firm control, up on Houston 28-7 as they start half number 2. You know, guys, I got a text from Troy asking for one more game break. That's why I did that.
Hey, and we appreciate it.
Nobody loves game breaks like me, Kurt.
Gruden must have loved that return for the touchdown. It's 4th down and 1 here. Next on Fox, your late local news. Usually you say except on the West Coast, but we're not on in the West Coast. Here's Ware. No surprise. And no surprise that Kevin Williams makes a play. So the Vikings will get it as the Giants turn it over on downs. Again tonight marks the end of one of the great streaks by one of the great players in the history of this game. Brett Favre unable to go, and you're right. I mean, every time we've shown Favre on the sideline with that right arm, the sprained shoulder, his throwing shoulder, he's trying to support it there because he's definitely in some pain. We saw that before the game, and we've seen it really since this game began.
Yeah, and I think he's worried about it, Joe. You know, in visiting with him prior to the game, I think he's concerned about some of the numbness and the tingling in the arm and hand that he's been experiencing.
Jackson throws, and he hangs Greg Lewis out to dry. Lewis is knocked away from the football. Webster out there to make the play in 2nd and 10. You know, after all these injuries, even this season with a cracked bone in his foot and his ankle, everything he's played through, he had never sprained his throwing shoulder. And, you know, you're just so conditioned to expecting him to come out and play, no matter what's said about the injury. And this one finally got him on a hit by Arthur Moats, the 3rd play of the game. First throw of the game last week at home against Buffalo. Here's Bernard Berrien. Webster makes that play, and it's 3rd down.
Well, you just kind of wonder now where the Vikings are going to go, and this, you know, this is something that they've had to be contemplating throughout this season. I think everybody anticipated that this would be his last year, and you know, Tavares Jackson, we talked about it coming in. You know, I don't think anything was really answered positively in that regard at the end of this one, and you know, will it at the end of this season? He's a free agent after this year. And will the Vikings choose to sign him? But there's no question that whether they sign him or not, they're going to be looking for a quarterback to come in and, if nothing else, provide some competition.
It's 4th down and 3 here. So not only do they have to figure out where they're going to go and play on Monday if they can't get their home stadium ready in time, but as an organization, where they're going to go personnel-wise at the quarterback position. Sidney Rice is a free agent. Their top receiver, and top receiver by a mile. Here's Lewis, who makes the catch for a 1st down. Now, Richie Zients is our producer. He's celebrating his birthday with us tonight in Detroit. Waiting for a pizza to arrive to our production truck. And he produced the last game that Brett Favre didn't start for the Green Bay Packers in 1992. He came in for an injured Don Majkowski, and Richie Zients was producing that game. And now here he is producing the first game that Favre hasn't started since that 92 season. Richie Zients has bookended this great streak of Brett Favre.
It's been a full career for Richie Zients.
You think that's it for Zients? We're assuming that's it for Favre. Zients will be there on Sunday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in the New York area, and at the new Meadowlands Stadium on Sunday for the Giants and the Eagles.
I just got word that Richie Zients is still waiting for that pizza.
Really, that's a shock. So happy birthday to Z, our director Rich Russo. It's been a weird weekend for everyone. As Tavares Jackson on 2nd down is thrown to the ground, and they're going to throw a flag on Human Euro with 35 seconds left.
Personal foul, roughing the passer, helmet-to-helmet contact, number 72 of the defense. 15-yard penalty, automatic 1st down.
Clear cut.
Yeah, that's the way the rule is. Even though he comes in with his helmet up, doesn't lead with the crown of his helmet, wraps him up, but the contact with the helmet,
you'd still be
draws
playing.
The flag.
You'd still be playing if they had all these rules in to protect the quarterback.
I would have been in my 24th year.
We want to thank our technical crew for persevering through this weekend, and with all the uncertainty in Minneapolis, and then getting this game pulled off here in Detroit. So they do a great job every week, and we thank them, all of them, top to bottom. That one for Berry, an incomplete. 2nd and 10, 30 seconds left. The irony of it is Detroit gets a Monday night game and the Lions aren't playing.
Yeah, Yeah, the first Monday night game played here in Detroit, or in Ford Field.
In Ford Field, which is one of the real nice facilities across the NFL. We're typically here on Thanksgiving. Lions have come so close so many times this season with Jim Schwartz, their head coach. I don't think there's any doubt they're on the right path. And he's done a nice job in trying to change the culture here with the Lions. I mean, you can look to 4 or 5 games where it could have gone either way. And they have been impressive some weekends. They didn't get much this last week, but it was enough. A 7-3 win here at home over the Green Bay Packers. It's 3rd and 10 here for Minnesota.
Yeah, the Vikings are determined to drag this game out as long as they can.
It appears so. Tavares Jackson, who's been limping from the beginning, basically, in shotgun on 3rd and 10. And now Jackson gets away from Jason Pierre-Paul and throws it out of bounds. So Jason Pierre-Paul, who had back-to-back two sack games, almost had his first of the night here. Somehow Tavares Jackson got away.
Well, there's no quitting these guys. You know, C.U. Manura, and they're going to throw it. They're going to keep coming after him.
You alluded to it earlier that Jason Pierre-Paul, the rookie, as Joe Webb will come in, got tired of getting ribbed by the guys in the defensive line meeting room saying, 15th overall pick, you got no sacks yet of the quarterback, get going.
Yeah, that, especially when you get into the room of veteran players as a rookie, regardless of the position, you can bet as a first-round pick, if you're not producing on the field, you're going to hear about it. And you know, he's a raw guy, you know, from what I gather, just a really likable young man who was contributing greatly on special teams, was doing a lot there. But you don't get drafted in the first round as a defensive lineman to play special teams. You get drafted there to go after the quarterback, and it looks like they found him another one. You know, Ernie Accorsi, you remember, Joe, when he was a general manager and teams were trying to make a trade for Matthias Kiwanuka, and he even got criticized for drafting Matthias Kiwanuka because of the other players that he had with Strahan and then OCU Manura. He says you never have enough pass rushers, and Jerry Reese feels the same way.
On 4th down, Joe Webb, who can really fly, carries it forward for a first down with 9 seconds left and gets out of bounds. 16 yards and a first down.
You know, speaking about Joe Webb and talking with some of the coaches for the Vikings, they say he's the best athlete on this Vikings team, which I find remarkable when, you know, Percy Harvin also plays for them, and we know what kind of athlete he is, but he really is something special, and not really sure exactly where he's going to be playing yet, if it's going to be a quarterback or a wide receiver or what he'll do, but he is a heck of an athlete.
So 9 seconds left. Seeing what Webb can do. Sliding to his left, and then he shows off the arm and completes it to Schenko. How about that throw?
Pretty impressive. Now I know why they moved him back to quarterback.
3 seconds remaining. That was a long throw that, like a laser, got out to Schenko near the sideline. 7 yards.
If they get this one off real quick, they can get another play in after it's over.
Why are you so bitter?
I'm not.
Come on now. This is a thrilling finish here in Detroit. It is for Joe Webb, and this will be the first loss. No Vikings head coach had ever started 3-0, and that will continue as Leslie Frazier will go to 2-1. Webb floats it up. That's the end of the game, barring a defensive foul, and this thing comes down incomplete. We are finished in Detroit. So you know the story, the roof collapsing in Minneapolis, forcing this game to be moved to Detroit. Brett Favre did not make the start. The streak is over. We'll come back and wrap up our night after this.